Welcome back, guys. We are back for another episode of AKP Sports Talk. It's your favorite two. We're returning. That's Ari. I'm Korea. Ari, it's Wednesday, day before the NBA draft. It's kind of crazy. It's just quick turnarounds for the NBA. We just had the Warriors, win the NBA Finals last week, and then all of a sudden, we're already talking about, the next season, and now the future of the NBA is about to be selected tomorrow. We got some more information on the potential some trades coming up soon. Ari, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, it's definitely pretty crazy. And then we'll have the draft tomorrow, and then we have summer league in like 2 weeks, and then before you know it, we'll be right back into training camp and preseason come like October, usually around that time. So definitely time flies, especially in the NBA. It's definitely. I mean, I feel like it is the same off season like time, but there's less of a break in between like events happening. It seems like compared to like the NFL where you have the Super Bowl in February, and then you have normally at least like a month or two break before you have some kind of action before the NFL draft, late April and all that. But I'll just share my screen here, and we will talk about some of the latest just kind of news in NBA. Is that too zoomed in, or is that fine?
No, that's fine.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I guess the first one we can talk about is when the John Collins trade talks have been kind of going around for a while, but it sounds like potentially on draft night he could be dealt. Um, what's your thoughts on this, Korea?
Yeah, I knew John Collins was going to be pretty much expendable for that Atlanta Hawks team. I knew they'd been trying to get rid of him, trying to find a probable suitor for him. I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta does a trade day splash, try to make some moves. But John Collins, I definitely feel like he is definitely trying to, try to be a bigger role somewhere else. I mean, it just kind of depends on what teams are kind of looking toward his way. I mean, right now is just trying to find a destination. We'll see what that where that destination is on Thursday. But for right now, yeah, I definitely can see John Collins, being a bigger role somewhere else. That pretty much that explosive offense that he brings for Atlanta. But yeah, I definitely think Atlanta should definitely consider seeing where the splash could go. Maybe getting some value back from him because obviously you have um, Trey Young, you have guys like Bogdanovic, just a bunch of role players who can elevate their games once in a while.
DeAndre Hunter too. Yeah.
Yeah, but I say yeah, they have an emerging DeAndre Hunter too. So definitely in John Collins, his fit didn't really mesh well, but it definitely provided some insight onto what John Collins can really bring to the team and just to an organization. So I definitely can see Atlanta potentially getting some good value from a trade like this. But we'll see kind of where Atlanta's head is at tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen flashes of Collins and Young working well, in the pick and roll game and all of that, but between just not fitting well and injuries and all that, it just hasn't really worked out for Collins in Atlanta. So it seems like a fresh start could be good for I think both sides. I don't think we can talk about Iguodala or Dean Wade. um, There is some talk about Mitchell Robinson leaving New York on free agency this year, and potentially the Knicks snagging either Mark Williams or Jalen Duren in the draft at number 11. But it sounds like the steam of that happening is kind of lessening now, and it's more likely that Robinson will return to New York. I mean, we've seen Robinson. Besides the injury issues, he's been really good with the Knicks. They still have Jericho Sims behind them, who showed flashes last year. But yeah, I mean, based on this report, it sounds like they might end up re-signing him based on the market value. I thought he might get more money from someone else that the Knicks weren't willing to pay him, but it sounds like his market value might not be what he thought it was potentially.
Yeah, I think the Knicks are definitely going to try and bring him back because I don't think Mitchell Robinson's value is going to be as high as I think people believe. And also, I think the Knicks are going to be kind of more toward the shooting side of the things in draft. I think I've heard things that they may even trade up for Jaden Ivey. We'll see potentially on tomorrow night just on how that goes. But I feel like, I think the Knicks really do need to bring back Mitchell Robinson because you mentioned Jericho Sims behind him, but Mitchell Robinson has been playing well with the Knicks, and he has played well in the past. And I feel like the Knicks do need him as an interior defender and a big rebounder too. Obviously, his big nature, his big stature. I feel like they do need to bring him back. And I mean, you did mention that things have simmered down. I feel like things have simmered down for a reason, because I feel like Mitchell Robinson is probably going to be coming back to this Knicks organization, even though the Knicks are. But yes, I definitely can see that happening, because there were talks about them drafting Durant, a big body center who can do it all in this draft with their pick. But now with rumors of them potentially trading up to get a shooter like Jaden Ivey, we'll see how they really address that in the draft tomorrow. But for now, I feel like Mitchell Robinson being back on this New York Knicks team is definitely a need for this team as they move forward into the rebuild on how they get back to the playoffs after missing it this season.
Yeah. Not surprisingly, Harden's leading towards opting in to his $47 million player option.
I mean, the thing with Harden, he needs to show up in the playoffs. I mean, it's not a matter of it. I knew he was going to stay, because I don't think Philly wants to let him go. But it's just, what can he do in the playoffs? That's the biggest thing with James Harden, because we've seen it year after year. This man can do stuff in the regular season, drop 40 and 50 points, but in the regular, when it really matters in the playoffs, this man does not show up. He has horrible performances, notably this one this year against the Heat. Just did not show up at all in that semifinal in the Eastern Conference. Literally just horrible. So I kind of expected him to opt in, but at the same time, it's not great for the Philadelphia 76ers organization.
Yeah, and there's also a report to them potentially shopping Thibault, I think, to kind of open up a roster spot, as well as open up some cap space. I'm not sure. I don't think his market value is not great, but maybe him in the pick just to get him off the roster, I think, is kind of where they're going at. Not really to acquire another asset, but to kind of just open up more cap for maybe free agency or whatever.
Yeah, and that connecting with that, I also heard that the Sixers are definitely. The name right down there. Let's get right into it. The Sixers have been kind of interested in PJ Tucker after PJ Tucker has been reportedly opting out of his deal with Miami. I've heard the Sixers may offer him like a 3-year, $30 million deal, to bring him up to Philly. And I feel like they kind of need that defensive presence in Philly after Ben Simmons left and has been traded now to the Brooklyn Nets, excuse me. But I mean, right now, he's definitely drawing interest from a bunch of teams after he's reportedly just trying to see what free agency is looking like for him. Ari, what are your thoughts on PJ Tucker?
Yeah, I think he could be definitely a good veteran, defender who can hit the open three in the corner. Harden and Maxey, drive to the hoop a lot, so he could be a good drive and dish in the corner, because people leave him open up a lot in the corner with this shooting, and he'll make a decent amount of just open shots in the corner. So I think, between his corner shooting and just his veteran leadership and defensive ability, I think could be a pretty good fit, off the bench for Philadelphia.
And then don't get me started. The man of the hour, Kyrie Irving. This guy. We got to get into this one. Obviously, this man has been pretty much swarming the media as of recently. A lot of people suspecting that Kyrie is not going to opt in to that to the Brooklyn Nets after another disappointing year, and after all this drama that's been going on with Kyrie in Brooklyn in his tenure with the team. Looks like potentially Kyrie may be going somewhere else. And obviously the three teams that have been connected to Kyrie are the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Knicks. Obviously the Knicks, because, back when it was supposed to be KD, Kyrie, and Zion, obviously all three did not end up on the Knicks. So the Knicks still, need that veteran point guard leadership right there. And, obviously the Lakers, you pair Kyrie up with LeBron again, that could be definitely a contender in the West. And then you go down to the Clippers right there. Kawhi, PG, and potentially the Claw on one team, that's just lethal. That's just a lethal team. Come on now. But you can say the same thing about Kyrie and LeBron potentially, coming back again, maybe even somehow keeping AD, depending on what the sign and trade situation may be. But I've seen so many trade proposals. I've seen so many possible trades go on. It's just interesting to see how this all kind of started on Sunday when I just out of the blue saw, like, man, Kyrie Irving's not really interested in returning to Brooklyn. I was like, wow, really? Kind of surprising, but at the same time, not especially after the last season he really had. But I mean, even if the thing with Kyrie Irving now is you can't really, and I've been watching First Take, and yes, it's unfortunate to say this, but you can't really guarantee Kyrie anymore. You only can really guarantee him for only about a year, and then you have to go year by year basis. And that's really how Kyrie Irving is, because you don't know he's going to be injured or he's going to sit out because of some political nonsense that he's got, political agenda that he's going to, get on board with, or whatever he's going to do. That's what Kyrie Irving does anymore. But even though he still does that side, there's a side where he can drop 27 and 6 on any given night. He's still part of the 50-40-90 club. He still can ball. He has some of the best handles in the NBA. And that's why teams are so interested. So I feel like this is going to be, I think right now I've seen the latest that the Lakers are kind of emerging as the favorites. And I definitely can see that now happening with, a lot of trade rumors of him going LeBron. And they're only started with Lakers Twitter. Lakers social media is just crazy, man. They post all different kinds of collabs that just don't happen. But that's another story for another time. But I definitely can see Kyrie going to LA. Or if he chooses to come back with Brooklyn, we'll see how that goes. But and then now I saw a report that now this is affecting KD, because KD can't recruit, obviously, because he doesn't know what the hell Kyrie's going to do. So the whole Kyrie situation is kind of taking over the NBA right now. We'll see what the Brooklyn Nets do with him before free agency, I believe, starts. When is free agency open again? I forgot what day that is.
I mean, it would be next month, obviously, right? July. It's like,
yeah, I know it's like early July, like around the 4th. I know it's around the 4th of July. It usually is, as Ari looks it up right now. But yeah, June 3rd. Oh, fuck! That's next Thursday. Oh, okay. So I guess we're gonna be covering this week from tomorrow. So, but. Yeah, I mean, we pretty much seen how crazy the NBA can get during free agency, and I feel like this whole Kyrie news is kind of leading the NBA right now. Ari, what are your thoughts on this whole Kyrie situation?
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time he said, "Oh, I'm going to stay here," and he left the next year. So I mean, yeah, like you said, you never know with Kyrie. He can say one thing, but you can only take his word so far, with what he has shown in the past. So. I mean, I'd still lean Brooklyn being the most likely where he's playing for next season. But I mean, it would be cool to see him reunite with LeBron if they're both willing to. I'm not sure what the Clippers of how realistic that is, but yeah, I mean, it seems like Brooklyn or Lakers is probably the most realistic landing spots. I know the Knicks are in it, but I mean, their names are brought up in every single big name free agent or whatever. But
pretty much any veteran point guard that's a free agent, the Knicks are linked to them.
Yeah, basically. But I mean, I think Brooklyn and the Lakers are the two most realistic places where he'll be playing next season. And I don't know. Part of me wants to see Kyrie and Durant running back. Part of me thinks it'd be cool to see him reunite with LeBron and all that. But I mean, I guess at this point, at this point, he'll be able to play in every game, right? It's not like the COVID's behind us in terms of him not being able to play.
I mean, yeah, you could definitely say that, obviously, with the mandates and everything. I feel like Kyrie should have a full 82-game season, but it's Kyrie Irving. That man can get injured. He could get another political agenda could pop up, and then he tries to sit out or, chooses not to play. And but yeah, I definitely agree with you. I'd love to see, Kyrie and KD run it back, have a full 82-game season together and see what they can do as obviously one of the favorites in the East once again if Kyrie stays. But also, you mentioned Kyrie and LeBron. We haven't seen them since they split ways when Kyrie went to Boston in 2018. And then you mentioned him saying, "Oh, I'm going to stay here," and then he leaves. So you mentioned that as well. But yeah, we haven't seen Kyrie and LeBron play together for a little while now after the whole terrible ending that they had after the 2018 season where they lost in the finals, got swept by the Warriors. Sorry, I had to bring that up. But Yeah, it's pretty much. I think it's going to come down to those two teams as well, between the Lakers and the Nets. I don't really see any other teams popping in. And then also, we have to think of another factor. Where does Russell Westbrook play in this? I think I think the more consensus idea is that Russ is definitely going to be traded. I've seen a lot of teams linked to him. I've seen mostly the Charlotte Hornets linked to Russell Westbrook right now. But it's just the way, the way that situation may go. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how the Lakers, if they do want to pursue Kyrie, how they're going to handle Russell Westbrook. Obviously, they could do a sign and trade with him and ship him somewhere else and do a 3-teamer, or they could just deal him another. They could deal Russell Westbrook earlier before they go after Kyrie. Definitely be interesting to see how that goes along the way.
Yeah, and I also just wanted to bring up the note of the other day, Beal declining his player option, so he becomes a free agent.
Thank God.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Washington's been trying to do all this stuff, Westbrook, Porzingis trying to build around him, and nothing's worked out. So I think it would be good for Beal to finally get out and finally sign, hopefully, with a more of a contending, playoff team. Chris, are there any teams that come to mind that could be in the sweepstakes for Beal, you think?
Yeah, Miami. I think Miami could definitely be in the sweepstakes for Bradley Beal. Thank God Bradley Beal's getting out of Washington. Yeah, he's been dedicated to this team for a while. But, after first they tried it with John Wall and Bradley Beal, that seemed to be working for a little bit. But they only got so far before they had to meet, better teams like the Cavs or better teams out of the East, or they had trouble with like the Celtics and, stuff like that. And then they brought in Russell Westbrook. That didn't even work. And then, they pretty much just gave up on that. And now Bradley Beal is finally getting out of there. I think him on a contending team like a Miami is definitely going to be good, because that would be amazing. You have Jimmy Butler and you have Bradley Beal. That's a 1-2 combo. And, with the way Jimmy Butler is emerging as a scorer right now, that could be huge for that Miami basketball organization right there. So I definitely think Miami is kind of like the number one spot that I think Bradley Beal would be great on right now. But there's the Lakers, there's potentially Chicago, depending on what Zach LaVine does. We'll see. But I definitely think that the Miami Heat will definitely be kind of the favorites to emerge in the Bradley Beal sweepstakes.
Yeah, that definitely would make sense as a landing spot for Beal. Knicks, and again, another point guard, the Knicks being in on Jaylen Brunson.
It's a gamble, but Jaylen Brunson has slowly emerged. I just don't know what his full potential is, especially with him, being kind of forced as the number 2 on the Mavericks. If he tries to get that big deal, I don't know if he can potentially rise up to be that star that he is or has come to right now, but we'll see. I mean, he definitely deserves some kind of money after he had a great great season this year on Dallas.
Yeah, especially in the playoffs, stepping up, when Luka was out early, he really stepped up, especially as a scorer. So yeah, he's definitely going to get his bag in free agency.
I know I saw some headlines I want to talk about too. Let me go find them real quick, but I know I literally just saw them.
There's also Malcolm Brogdon and Miles Turner looking like they're going to be moved potentially. The Wizards are next. The 2 most likely landing places for Brogdon, according to Woj.
Yeah, I saw those 2 definitely linked in some trades as well. I think Malcolm Brogdon needs to get out of there, because I think the idea when they brought him in from Milwaukee, I think the idea was there, but the execution just failed. And I think Brogdon is now a part of a process where they're trying to rebuild, obviously with the big splash trade that the Pacers had, sending Sabonis out to Sacramento and bringing in Halliburton and Buddy Hield and more. But I feel like both Turner and Brogdon are kind of, the extra pieces in that rebuild. And I think Brogdon can definitely flourish somewhere. Imagine Malcolm Brogdon is still on this Milwaukee team now that Giannis has emerged into the superstar that he is. We've seen Chris Middleton step up his shooting game as well. So I think if you put Malcolm Brogdon back on this Milwaukee team, I think Milwaukee is definitely a favorite out of the East every single time. And then for Miles Turner, I think he just needs to find somewhere where he can, his defensive presence will be used. Definitely. What was the team we were just talking about? Who needs a big time center? We were just talking about them.
I mean, the Hornets seemed a big time, didn't need a center.
Yeah, well, the Hornets just need all defense. They need everything defense. So,
we talked about the Knicks earlier, but then likely re-signing Robinson wouldn't fit, obviously.
Yeah. But I mean, I've also seen some trades where I saw a mock trade yesterday from Bleacher Report where they had this 3-teamer. It was the Nets, Lakers, and Pacers, sending Kyrie and Seth Curry to the Lakers. You have Brogdon and Miles Turner go to the Nets, and then Russell Westbrook and a pick go to the Pacers. I mean, that could be interesting. I don't think it's going to be real, but I think that's really interesting. I just think Russell Westbrook's getting screwed in that. But it's just I saw both trades. Both trades were just Russell Westbrook getting screwed. I mean, one was going to Houston, and then one going to India. I was like, okay, this man's just getting screwed everywhere. But yeah, I think Malcolm Brogdon can flourish somewhere. I think if he can get some way somehow, if the things align perfectly and he goes back to Milwaukee, I think Milwaukee will definitely be a contender again. But for Miles Turner, definitely I think the Hornets, pretty much anywhere where he has a big body, I think will definitely be a big advantage for him.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Did you find the other ones that you were going to bring up or no?
Yeah, I was going to talk about pretty much Miles Bridges, just kind of the Hornets in general, and what they're kind of doing. I think the Hornets right now, trying to pursue Russell Westbrook, I think is a good idea. And then also them trying to keep Miles Bridges. I think this is interesting. And the reason I think it's interesting is because, there's two sides of basketball. There's the basketball side of Miles Bridges, and then there's the rap side of Miles Bridges. And if you don't know the rap side of Miles Bridges, well, it's great, just strictly rap. But I mean, when he's posting pictures on Instagram, I'm serious. You joke about it. It's serious. It's a really bad look for a player. And we've seen what lean does to a man. We've seen rappers like Lil Pump and all these gain so much weight. Like Lil Pump looks so different because of how much lean he sips. So this is a really big concern, and you can see the Hornets are trying to bring him back. And I feel this is a big problem if Miles Bridges is going to be doing whatever the hell he's doing, that lean shit. He needs to get off of that right now. But if Miles Bridges is serious about coming back to Charlotte, I think he needs to get off that, because it's really, really going to mess up his system. It's going to make him look a lot fatter. It does. It just looks like it gains like you have like a gut. It looks like you have a gut on you. So this is definitely an investment, but I think if Miles Bridges, plays with that electricity that he always has, I think it'll definitely, prove to be a good investment. But on the opposite side, they need to bring in so much defense because, this is the second year in a row they've made the play-in. They put up points, but they allow 140, 150 points a game. Like, they just need to find some defensive presence. And so I feel if you bring back Miles Bridges, I think that's a good step, but you have to be very cautious with that, especially with his, other side. And there's nothing wrong with, being a rapper, but if you're going to be doing all that lean and stuff, like, you got to get off that if you're trying to play in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, no argument for me. I mean, I like some of the pieces that they have in Charlotte, but yeah, I mean, they could definitely use upgrade over Mason Plumlee at center. I think that should be their top priority for them this offseason. And then, just continuing to build the chemistry with guys like LaMelo and Rozier and Bridges and all of them. So I think that will do it for this part of the episode. Like we said earlier, with next week free agency starting up, we'll have plenty more of these news reports and all that, as rumors fly in over the next week or so. So we'll have plenty more in the coming episodes. But now we want to just kind of talk out kind of a mock draft. So there's this simulator on fanspo.com that's pretty simple and easy to use. So I figured we could just do it that way. If it wants to start. Let's see, first round, standard, whatever, NBA. not want to start. Wait, let me see if I stop sharing if it will start. Bro.
Oh, we love technical difficulties here on AKP Sports Talk.
But for me, I don't know about you, but for me, Paolo Banchero, to me, he's like the safest like player in his class, and that's why he's my number one player in this class. But it sounds like Orlando's leaning more towards Jabari Smith. What's your stance on who you think should go number one? Who you think will go number one, Korea?
I'm pretty much on the same stance as you. I definitely see that Jabari Smith is emerging as the number one overall favorite right now. Just his ability to stretch the floor is something that Orlando kind of needs right now to pair with, Cole Anthony and, Jalen Suggs and, that rising rebuilt Orlando Magic team. And then, but we've seen what Paolo Banchero does. I mean, you've seen it firsthand. He's obviously from Seattle area, so representing the 206, we love to see him go number one overall. But we've seen what Paolo Banchero can do. I think he would definitely be a better option for this Orlando Magic team, but I think the safer option for them is definitely going to be Jabari Smith, and I think that's why he's definitely kind of the number one overall consensus right now. And a name that I kind of want to bring up right now is obviously Chet Holmgren. A lot of people are kind of saying, where Chet Holmgren is falling into this, and I feel like this is just kind of emerging as of today. His stock is falling, and it's kind of a shame, but I think it's literally just because of how tall he is and how skinny he is. A lot of teams are kind of taking that as a risk, for his health and, maybe not trying to invest in that. We'll get into that in a little more, but for now, I want to say that Jabari Smith is kind of now, since he's definitely number one overall consensus favorite, I feel like he definitely will probably be getting his name called first overall tomorrow night. But, I feel like Banchero can definitely be a huge asset for that Orlando Magic team right now.
I don't know. I feel this similar like 3 times and it's worked every time, and now that we're live on here, it doesn't want to work. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I mean, I still think Holmgren's going to go number 2 to the Thunder. I've heard rumors that he's not giving them their medicals because he doesn't want to go to Oklahoma City. I mean, going from Spokane to Oklahoma City is not the greatest transition.
And as someone who is in Spokane, I can tell you that's not a great transition right now.
But yeah, it still sounds like he's probably going to go number 2 overall. But I've also heard rumors of the Thunder potentially trading back or up. Obviously, not really up from number 2, but up from number 12 to number 4 potentially. One of the like 5 or 6 teams I've called Sacramento about trading up to that number 4 pick for Jaden Ivey. Okay, yeah, I think this just isn't going to work right now.
Oh, that's great. But I mean, continue on to Chet Holmgren. Yeah, you mentioned that he didn't want to give his medical records. I think it was both the Magic and OKC, and obviously OKC because he didn't want to go to Oklahoma City. But I mean, definitely the Magic is a little more interesting, obviously, because Chet Holmgren and Jalen Suggs literally have played basketball together almost their whole life, and it would be kind of an amazing story for them to keep continuing that, that trajectory in Orlando after playing in Gonzaga here in Spokane. The thing about Chet Holmgren is just his large stature. It just looks, obviously, he's very, very frail and skinny, but, he definitely has that ability to, stretch the floor. He has the height that, you want in the center, but he can shoot the ball very well. He does get in foul trouble a lot, but I still think he definitely goes in the top 5 somewhere. Where that'll be interesting because I've just seen so many things, literally just as in like the last hour about how Chet Holmgren's stock is falling, and it'd definitely be interesting to see where he lands after now. He's not giving any of his records to the top 2 teams in the draft, and I mean after that, I mean, do you really want to go to Houston? Or I mean after that, I mean I know Sacramento's probably going to try and trade that pick away. And I heard the Knicks may even trade up to get Ivy. I've heard other teams as well. And now also Houston has another first-round pick after the Christian Wood trade, so that we can use that as leverage as well. But you look at this top 5 right here for projected top 5 picks in tomorrow's draft, and you see Jabari Smith and obviously Chet Holmgren, number 2, going to OKC, and then Banchero going to Houston. You have Ivy going to the Kings right now. Obviously, but trades can happen. And then you have Keegan Murray going to Detroit. I like this top 5 right now. You can definitely argue Jaden Ivey potentially moving up. Same for Banchero, obviously with the Chet Holmgren situation. It'll be interesting to see what the Thunder really want to do, if they want to pursue Chet Holmgren, uh, or maybe does OKC want to take the risk with Banchero, or something like that. We'll see. But Ari, as this is right now the projected top 5 for the draft, what do you like about it? What do you don't like about it? Tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, my top 4 is the same. I personally have Dyson Daniels, the G League guard, going to the Pistons. I think he'll just be a better fit for the Pistons, alongside alongside Cade Cunningham in that backcourt. And I got Keegan Murray going to the Pacers at 6, especially if they do trade Miles Turner. So yeah, that's the only difference I have in the mock draft I put together. So yeah, that's kind of like that's the consensus top 4. I would say, and then 5 is where it starts to get more arguable in terms of what players are going to go where. Benedict Mathurin's a player that's really risen up the draft boards. I've seen him as mocked as early, probably around here, as early as 6 to the Pacers. But I've also seen him go 7, 7, 8, 9, pretty much anywhere in the 6 to 10 range. I've seen him mocked to. I really like his fit with the Pelicans, as coming off a playoff run. They should get Zion back, so they're definitely in a win now mode. And I think Mathurin has that kind of experience to where he can, come in. I would think he'll probably come off the bench as kind of a spark scorer off the bench, a playmaker who can, create his own shot, create for his teammates, do a little bit of everything. So I think it'll be interesting to see where he goes.
Yeah, you mentioned it. I actually was going to mention the Dyson Daniels to Detroit agenda. I like that too. You mentioned him and Cade Cunningham in that backcourt. That definitely be one of the definitely be a great backcourt to have. 1-2 combo building for the future. But we look at the later half of the lottery, and we have you mentioned Mathurin definitely rising in the stocks right now. You mentioned his abilities and what he can do. I see him definitely get in that range. I've seen him as going as high as about 6 as well. I definitely see him definitely in that later lottery range around, I think 6 to 8 is definitely where he's going to be going. We look at Shaedon Sharpe, and that's definitely a huge gamble because we haven't seen that much of him. Obviously not after not playing at Kentucky. We have to rely on him from high school, and that's a big gamble. You don't really know what he can really bring, but he's definitely still one of those top lottery picks. Who can definitely shoot the ball well. Definitely be a good pairing in that backcourt, even though he's just very, very young. And then as you go through the rest of the lottery here, we see Johnny Davis at 10 going to the Wizards. That could be a good replacement for Bradley Beal, depending on where he goes. You have the OKC Thunder going again with their second lottery pick with Jaylen Brunson. That would be great. Some great interior defense right there just to see. And we've seen what Durant can do just on the defensive side of the ball, and his rebounding is amazing. And then rounding out the lottery, we have the Knicks taking Griffin at 11, but, the Knicks may trade up. We'll see AJ Griffin, the shooting small forward out of Duke. He's definitely been in that range. I've seen him as high as 8 in mock drafts right now. And then we have OJ Abaji going to Cleveland right now at 14, the senior on the championship Kansas Jayhawks team. Definitely one of the key contributors for the Kansas team right there. I definitely can see him coming off the bench if he's going to Cleveland right now, because Cleveland does already have Darius Garland. Definitely be interesting to see what they do with Colin Sexton after he didn't get to play pretty much the entire season due to injury. But that Cleveland team looked like they didn't really need him after their play-in run, not even making the playoffs. But it looks like definitely be interesting to see what the Cavs do. Already out of this latter half of the lottery, what do you like for these teams, and what do you expect to change or potentially happen in the 6 through 14?
Yeah, I like the fit of Jeremy Sochan to the Spurs. We kind of saw his stock rise in the NCAA tournament this past year with some of what we saw from him. Kind of a versatile forward who can kind of guard pretty much every position. And we saw his shooting ability kind of take a step forward as well. So I think him going with Greg Popovich and the Spurs, I think that could be a really good kind of sign for his development. I think he's one of those players where he can be better at the NBA level than what we saw in the college level. I think that's kind of what scouts are thinking and why he's kind of going as high as he is, despite not maybe putting up the biggest numbers, in college at Baylor this past year. Though he had some big games as well, in the brightest moments in the tournament. Yeah, you mentioned Johnny Davis as the replacement for Bradley Beal, which I like as well. I like that fit. And I like Agbaji joining. I mean, at least for now, Sexton and Garland in that backcourt. Agbaji could kind of be like a small three, I feel like, but he's definitely more of a shooting guard. So either, I guess, like the six-man scoring spark off the bench, or if they wanted to go smaller, he could probably play three, just given how big they are with Mobley and Allen, at the 4 and 5 potentially. So they could kind of mix and match that, but I do like that fit as well.
And then now we get down to pretty much the rest of the first round, 15 through 30. And we get to pretty much the latter half of the first round, teams that are already in contention and, playoff teams that are trying to just add one more piece to their record. And I want to make a quick note, right now it's kind of seeing that number 27 and number 28, the Golden State Warriors and Miami Heat. It kind of seems like right now those chicks are probably going to be traded. Right now, it will definitely be interesting to see right now, because Golden State right now, I feel like they're trading because, all that cap space they already have, trying to return all the starters and then trying to get rotation minutes for their already 2 draftees last year in Kuminga and Moody in the lottery. But for now, we look for this 15 through 30, and I'm seeing some big names right here. I do like Dalen Terry. I think you can talk about a lot more about Dalen Terry going to San Antonio out of Arizona as well. I definitely can see him on a good spot with San Antonio. Under Popovich, definitely could be a good pairing for DeJounte Murray. Murray, one of the more underrated players in the NBA. I feel like if he has one more star, he definitely could, shine as a kind of a star for that San Antonio Spurs roster. I do like EJ Liddell going to Milwaukee. That big power forward who can definitely shoot the ball well. Milwaukee kind of missing that. They already have Giannis, a guy who can drive to the basket and pretty obviously very big, but kind of need a shooter who can do that well. And Brook Lopez has his moments, and Chris Middleton, he's more of a shooter now. So EJ Liddell could be someone who could definitely have a bigger impact on that team. You just keep scrolling down. We see Wendell Moore potentially, Ty Washington late in the first round as well. Walker Kessler. I've seen him as high as a late first and an early second. Potentially going to Memphis. That could definitely be very interesting. I've seen Laravia out of Wake Forest, but I don't think the Warriors are definitely going to be looking for anything in the first round. And then you finish off with Kennedy Chandler, the point guard out of Tennessee, potentially going to Denver after that trade with Thunder. Ari, what do you like in the rest of this first round?
The most interesting player to me is Ty Washington. He was a 5-star player out of high school, and it was kind of, a disappointing season for him freshman year that ended with the huge upset in the NCAA tournament. But I've seen him mocked as high as 11 to the Knicks and as late as, right around here. So I feel like he probably has like the biggest range of different range of outcomes between what we can see tomorrow. You brought up Dalen Terry. I agree. I feel like him and Sochan are kind of similar in that they're like, he's listed as a guard, but he's like the size of a forward. So I feel like drafting both of them would be a little bit weird, but it could work out. We saw Terry bring up the ball this past year with Arizona, but he's about like 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", 6'9". He's like a size of, a 3 or a 4. But yeah, between the Spurs, Memphis, I can see Milwaukee letting Terry. So I think he'll go anywhere right here in this like 20 to 25 range. If the Heat did not trade instead Pat, I liked Kennedy Chandler, the point guard from Tennessee, going there as kind of like insurance for Kyle Lowry. Him getting another year older, I like that fit. If they were to stay there. if the Warriors were to stay, I've seen some mocks have them going Christian Coloco, the center of Arizona, depending on how they view, Wiseman and his future, and then also Looney leaving or staying. But yeah, with Moody and Kuminga, and then trying to re-sign guys like Gary Payton, it would make sense to trade the pick because you can only have so many players, on your roster and who see the court. And their roster kind of overloaded right now. And then Marjan Beauchamp and Jaden Harden are two kind of G League kind of unknown players to an extent. I mean, not a ton of people watch the G League as much as I do college, so I've seen those two mocked constantly to either like the Spurs or just anywhere past the lottery, but in the first round. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
I mean, yeah, this is definitely going to be one of the more interesting drafts just because, the top four is kind of locked, but after that, you really don't know where anyone else is going to go. We talked about it for the NFL draft and how, we didn't really know any expectations about what the top 10 was going to look like, except for pretty much the top 2 or 3 picks. But then after that, it was pretty much a guessing game. And I feel like this year for the NBA draft, it's kind of the same. It's more of a guessing game. You have your top 4 with Smith and Chad Holmgren. You have your Bancheros in there. You have Ivy. Those 4, I think, are definitely going to go somewhere in that top 4. But then after that, you can see Dyson Daniels move up. You could see. I think tomorrow is definitely going to be a big day for trade day trades. I feel like I think those daytime or trade day trades. I feel like those trades are going to be pretty prevalent tomorrow. You mentioned with the Knicks potentially moving up. Now Houston has another first rounder. That could be something that they've used. I could see, Sacramento does have a lot of options now for potentially trading out. So tomorrow will definitely be a big day. I think there's going to be some big time splashes right around the draft or right during the draft. But tomorrow we'll see. I think it's I'm sure it's a 5, I believe. Josh has a 5.
Yeah, 5 Pacific time, right around then. Yeah, 5 or 5:30.
Yeah, 5 Pacific time, 8 on the East Coast. Definitely be one of the more interesting drafts this year. I'm excited to see where Chet Holmgren lands. Now that obviously he's not even giving his medical records to both the Magic and the Thunder. And if anything, I would kind of expect he would give it to the Magic, considering his pretty much right hand man Jalen Suggs is coming out of his first year with the organization. So definitely be interesting to see how tomorrow goes. I'm excited to see what the future of the NBA can bring into this new season.
Yeah, without a doubt. So Friday we'll go over some more NBA news. We'll go over obviously the draft tomorrow, what happened tomorrow, and then we'll probably bring up some more NFL news as we get into July and training camp. And we'll have more fantasy, topics coming up in the next few weeks as well as we get into more draft season, and we'll do some more mock drafts for fantasy football and all of that. So we'll look forward to that. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will catch you all on Friday.